Welcome back to another video on the channel. We have reached the US Open, the final Grand Slam of 2021, a year that has been dominated by Novak Djokovic. Can he become the first male player since 1969 in Rod Laver to complete the calendar Grand Slam? We'll find out over the next 2 weeks. But in this video I'm just going to be previewing the tournament, giving my thoughts on a few players, before finally giving my prediction on who I think will take the title home in a couple of weeks' time. First off, I'm going to start with a little bit of tournament information. So the US Open gets underway tomorrow, Monday the 30th of August, before the men's final is September the 12th. 7 rounds of best of 5 set matches live on Amazon Prime around the world. I have also posted a full women's tournament preview, so if you do want to check that out, then please do. I'll be uploading videos throughout the tournament as well, reviewing the action and previewing and giving my prediction on the next matches, covering the tournament on my Twitter account, and writing live text commentaries and articles for Tennis Head. I'll leave a link to all those stuff in the description below. But if you are looking to keep updated throughout the tournament, do subscribe. So to start off, it's worth mentioning the notable absentees. Unfortunately, defending champion Dominic Thiem is out. Rafa Nadal and Roger Federer are also out, which is, disappointing. It means that the field is obviously not as strong as what we'd like, but we still have some of the top players in the world, and I'm sure it'll still be a fantastic tournament. So as I mentioned there, Novak Djokovic is bidden to become the first male player since 1969 to win all 4 Grand Slams in the same calendar year. Obviously, he's already won Australian, French, and Wimbledon in 2021. He's also got the opportunity for the first time in his career to top the major list. He's obviously locked at the top now with Nadal and Federer after winning Wimbledon. So Djokovic has the chance to surpass Federer and Nadal to move on to 21. Now there's been a bit of question, and I've seen lots of pundits have different views. Will the pressure of Djokovic bidding to win the calendar slam and the chance to get to 21, will that pressure be something that he thrives under, or will it be something that causes him to not play so well and crumble under the pressure and lose? Well, I think Djokovic is a player that thrives on pressure. I think it makes him more determined. He said for many years that he wants to achieve greatness, he wants to create history, he wants to be considered as the greatest player of all time. This is his chance. I think this would be one of the greatest achievements in tennis history if he was to do this, win the calendar Grand Slam. When you add in the fact of who he's beaten Rafa at the French, he's had injury problems at the Australian Open, he's 34 years old. This would really cement his place at the top, in my opinion, if you can pull it off. So I think it's worth quickly looking back at Djokovic's 2021 so far. He suffered a stomach tear at the Australian Open, went on to reach the final and dispatch Daniel Medvedev, who was in fantastic form on a brilliant winning streak going into that final in straight sets. The French Open, he was 2 sets down to Lorenzo Musetti, went on to beat Rafael Nadal in 4 sets in the semi-final before recovering from 2 sets down against Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final. Arguably his greatest ever Grand Slam win, in my opinion. He lost just 2 sets at Wimbledon. He was a set down to Matteo Berrettini in the final before coming back to win in 4. At 34 years old, whether you like Djokovic or not, you have to respect and appreciate what he's done so far in 2021 to be able to adapt to different surfaces, win 21 Grand Slam matches consecutively while dealing with injuries, fatigue, back from the jaws of defeat is just immense. His game's just in an unbelievable place at the moment. Best serving year of his career, in my opinion. Best return ever. The defence, the court coverage, the ground strokes, the variety, the will to win, the ability to problem solve and turn matches around is all just on another planet at the moment. He's out there by himself in Grand Slams, way ahead of everybody else. We've seen this year that Djokovic can be a set or 2 down. He can refocus, he can switch momentum and just runs away with the matches to the finishing line. And that's something that's so underestimated, I think, with Djokovic, and underappreciated at times, that he can be, as I say, a set or 2 down to a Nadal, a Berrettini, a Tsitsipas, and to be able to turn those matches around and win is a special achievement, and probably the only player in the world that can do that so consistently. I almost feel like at the moment Djokovic is near impossible to beat over 5 sets. I think from an opponent's point of view, it's so mentally taxing and difficult to maintain a good enough level to beat Djokovic for 5 sets. For example, in that French Open final, I think Tsitsipas played absolutely brilliantly for 2 sets. He took the 2 tight openers, Djokovic is a player over the years, seeming to boss the next gen in the big moments. He seemed to take the tie breaks, take the set 6-4, 7-5. Tsitsipas turn the tables. He produced his best in the biggest moments. He outplayed Djokovic in the big moments, the first and second set. And you thought, is this the changing of the guard? Is Stefanos Tsitsipas, one of the next gen players, finally going to break through and beat Djokovic at his own game? And when Tsitsipas led 2-0, Djokovic seemed to be under no pressure whatsoever. Just sat in his seat, thought, how do I get this match back? How do I turn the tables? Got an early break in the start of the third, and from then the right and really looked on the wall. Tsitsipas didn't have the ability that Djokovic had to turn the match back around, and it ended up looking like such an easy win for Djokovic in what was such a difficult match. But Djokovic's ability to do that over 5 sets is just remarkable, and he's arguably the greatest 5-set player of all time. So talking of Stefanos Tsitsipas, he's shown how good he can be in patches, but I still don't think, other than the French Open this year, that he's done it consistent enough for a player of his quality. Tsitsipas is not 19, 20 years old anymore. He's knocking on 23, 24, and it's about time that I think, Tsitsipas really start to turn up at every single Grand Slam and start to reach the semis and finals consistently, because he is good enough. To exit round one at Wimbledon was disappointing. Didn't produce his best at Tokyo Olympics, and you think, Tsitsipas shouldn't be throwing in performances like this when these are the tournaments, the majors that he should be peaking at. This is where we should be seeing the best of Stefanos Tsitsipas. So to see him have early exits at major tournaments is slightly disappointing, slightly worrying for his confidence in his form. And yeah, I'm not sure really what to expect from Stefanos Tsitsipas now in Grand Slams. You think if he turns up and cruises through the first 2 or 3, 4 rounds, then he becomes a huge danger, a huge threat to everybody. He's certainly good enough to beat every player in this draw. But I think Tsitsipas, the writing can be on the wall from him from an early stage. If he struggles in the opening round or two, he can often go out or have to have 4 or 5 hour battles, which leaves him struggling for fitness in the later rounds. The 2 sets against Djokovic in the French Open final, the ATP finals last year, showed just how good Tsitsipas can be. He just needs to do it over a 2-week period, which is something that he seems to be struggling with. As I mentioned there, he did look very fatigued at Wimbledon and the Tokyo Olympics, which is a slight worry. I think over 3 sets, Tsitsipas is arguably the best player in the world. He's so explosive, but over 5 sets, I just think it's different for him. He has a high octane game style. I think he ties in 5-set matches, particularly at the back end of events. He often throws in bad games, loses focus, gives games away, momentum in matches, and that he seems to struggle down the stretch. But as I've said, he's a player with huge ability, huge talent. I think if he can add a little bit more consistency to his game, cut out the unforced errors in the big moments that he sometimes makes in big matches, then his name could be on this title. But for me, I wouldn't be picking Tsitsipas with much confidence to win the US Open. Daniel Medvedev is a player who I think is just a nightmare for everybody over 5 sets. He's a player with stunning defence. He's one of the best counter punchers in the world, probably the best. A monster first serve, a player that I still think's improving all the time. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did win this Grand Slam. He came close to winning it in 2019 against Nadal, in which he lost to 5 sets. Perhaps he can use that experience if he was to reach that stage again. And Medvedev's appeared to be in very, very strong form. He won the Canadian Open last month, reached the semi-final of the Cincinnati Masters, so he's had very good preparation for this tournament. I'm still not sure Medvedev's good enough or confident enough coming forward to win this title. His game style does work very, very well, but it's very, very energy sapping also. To run down every ball, to counter punch, to defend, to play consistently long exchanges is incredibly difficult to do that for, an entire 7-round, 5-set tournament. It's difficult for anybody in the world to be able to kick at that level and maintain levels of fitness good enough to be able to beat the likes of Zverev and Djokovic down the line. I feel like Djokovic would still have the edge mentally against Medvedev in variety, and I'm just not sure Medvedev has the weapons to change things up against the top players when things aren't quite going his way. Now I'm going to move on to Alexander Zverev, who for me is the second favourite to win this one. He reached the final of 2020 US Open. He probably should have won the title. 2 sets up against Dominic Thiem. before capitulating in what was a very topsy-turvy, strange final, which team came out on top in a championship deciding tiebreak. Particularly on a good serving day, I think Zverev is a huge danger to all, particularly on a hard court as well. He can be at times vulnerable against the top players. With his second serve and his forehand can often go off the radar. You can often gift games momentum, which is, crucial of what you don't do against the top players. However, one thing that, Zverev does fill me with confidence in going into this tournament is that I've always worried whether he actually believes he could win a Grand Slam, whether he believed he was good enough to be the top player in the world. Was he too passive in big moments? I think he was. I don't think he went to win the big points. He sort of went into his shell and waited for errors from the top players, which don't really come. I think beating Djokovic at the Olympics, going on to win gold, winning Cincinnati Masters, perfect preparation for any player. But in my opinion, more so in terms of Zverev, I think he's now got the belief that he can win big titles. He is good enough, and it's a huge mental shift to know that he can beat Novak Djokovic in a big tournament. He can close out finals, something that he hasn't done consistently over the years. But particularly in 2021, I think he's looked rock solid in finals. He started to play his best tennis in the big matches. That's crucial for him, being the player that he is. I would expect him to be fully confident if he did come up against Djokovic. I think they're drawn to play each in the semi-finals, and you'd expect them both to reach that stage with the form that they've both been in. I just think Zverev has got to continue what he's done in those last two tournaments. Be aggressive in the big moments. Don't be passive and wait for errors. And if he does that, then he's certainly capable of going all the way. Other notable players in the draw are Andrei Rublev, Yannick Sinner, Alex de Minaur, Denis Shapovalov, Auger-Aliassime, Andy Murray up against Stefanos Tsitsipas, and undoubtedly what is the tie the first round. In terms of a conclusion and prediction, I don't think it'll come as much of a surprise to anybody that I'm going to go with Novak Djokovic. I don't know how anybody can go against Djokovic really. The form he showed in Grand Slams, the tennis he's played in 2021, the wins that he's produced, the fact that he's going for greatness. And as I said, I think Djokovic is a player that thrives in that sort of pressure and that sort of under the limelight when, people are saying, will he get to 21? Will he become the first man since Lever to win all 4 Grand Slams? And I think, Djokovic wants to create history, wants to achieve greatness, and I can't see anybody stopping him, to be honest. We've seen Medvedev be in a Grand Slam final against him this year and get dispatched in straight sets. Stefanos Tsitsipas had probably the best chance he's ever going to have, 2 sets up on clay against him. Still didn't quite get over the line. I'm just not sure that any of the next gen players really believe in themselves over 5 sets to really have the consistent games to beat Djokovic. But perhaps Djokovic is fatigued, perhaps the pressure will get to him, and perhaps there will be a breakthrough eventually from a next gen player, but will remain to be seen. But I think until one does beat him at a Grand Slam, then you have to keep picking Djokovic to win them. In terms of a second favourite, I will go with Zverev. Out of all the next gen players, I think he's probably had the best 2021. As I've mentioned, that mental shift in the fact that he's won the Olympic gold and Cincinnati Masters might be massive for him. Now that he believes and knows that he can beat the top players, it might just take a little bit of pressure off his shoulders. He might just be a little bit more aggressive in the big moments, and these matches are decided on fine margins, and perhaps Zverev can tip them in his favour. So do tune in to the US Open. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic 2 weeks of tennis. We'll be treated to some of the best tennis we've probably seen all of 2021. The level of the women's tennis at the moment as well is off the charts. So make sure you do tune into my full preview, which is already on the channel. Leave your tournament predictions in the comment section below. Thank you for watching another video on the channel, and I will see you on the next one.